The music.
Yeah, you got it. Just a second. Got to share the audios and music.
Welcome to Earl and the Idiot, the show that gives you the answers you need to take your business to the next level. With Earl Flormata, one of Vancouver's most sought-after business and marketing consultants, author of Business Engine Optimization, consultant to over 60 successful businesses, an all-around evil marketing genius with a combined total of more than $70 million worth of sales to his credit. And some idiot. Okay, here we go.
This guy.
Here we go.
Right
indeed.
here. Yeah. I should change
an email. I got an email from Zoom. It says, "Hey, some idiot joined your Zoom room." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, I should change my tag here to some idiot, not an idiot.
There you go.
To match the
thing. Says an idiot joined your Zoom room. I'm like, "What the? Oh, right, that's what the meeting happened." So there you go.
Okay, can you imagine if Zoom started getting judgmental? Some jerk
just joined your Zoom for no reason at all. Oh, who knows?
So before we start, I got to tell you about a product idea I have.
Okay.
Hot product idea. And anybody watching this, just so you know, legally, you're signing an NDA by watching this. You promise not to steal my idea, or if you do steal my idea, cut me in for the profits. So this right here, let's see if we can see it. This guy is a little
slinky.
Yeah, like a little slinky. Yeah. Little plastic slinky guy. We got him at an arcade, where the arcades where you win the tickets.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing: he's hot off the presses. This guy. You see how only half of him is jiggling?
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. Like fidget toys are still a thing. Like I know the fidget spinners kind of came and went as the fad, but they still make fidget toys. Some of them are high end.
Yeah, yeah. Right? Some of them, like the cube with the switch and the clicker and the rotating thingy and the
yeah, exactly. I saw one the other day that was literally just like a block. Like it looked like shaped like a bar of soap. Okay. And it was made out of like the sort of micarta but it had a rope tied on it. It was literally like you're just supposed to rub it around in your fingers as a fidget toy or whatever. So I figure fidget toys are still a big thing. So this guy came to me, hot off the presses, and I guess the manufacturing process, he was stuck together. Okay. Right. And what I found is if you run your finger around the rungs, there's a very satisfying unsticking feeling.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, as it pulls apart, like you see, I pulled it apart a couple more rungs.
Yeah, and
it's like I don't even want to waste it. Like that's why I've had this for like 3 weeks now. I haven't even opened it up all the way yet.
Right.
But it's just a very satisfying feeling of running your finger around and having it go click. Like sort of like Velcro, but easier.
So it's kind of like what the 12 days of Christmas to get the little Christmas calendar move everything with all the chocolate in it.
It's an advent cal. It's a little advent calendar fidget spinner. But the trick is you got to invent a way to kind of have it slightly Velcro-ish so that you can stick it back together again and then do it again. Because once I've done this, it's done.
That's it. Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's when you get a heat gun and you just like heat it up and then it all melds back together and you gotta do it again.
This is why I bring you my problems, Earl. You always have solutions.
Hair dryer.
So anyway,
go.
So that's my idea. We're gonna make $1 million on that. Everybody watching, take my idea. If you do take my idea and you don't cut me in, just send me lots of free ones. I just want the product. Just kidding. You need to pay me. All right.
Lifetime supply.
Yeah. How are you doing, Earl?
I'm doing well. It's been a busy day. I try to get 10,000 steps a day. And I looked at my watch like literally 10 minutes before you called. I'm like, I'm only at 500 steps. That's not good.
Oh my God.
So I got a lot of walking to do after this. So immediately after this, I'm taking my butt outside and going for a walk. So
I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to brag here or anything, but I got my 10,000 steps in before 9 a.m. this morning.
Nice. Where'd you
go? We went looking for owls.
Oh, cool.
There's this place where I won't reveal. You never tell the location of owls because then all these photographers show up and like cut down the trees and stuff to get a good view of them. So, but there's a place we know. There's long-eared owls. Familiar with long-eared owls?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And they're super cute, but they're super, super shy. And as soon as they come out at night when no one's around, and then as soon as there's people around, they run back. So you have to go back. You have to go there. You have to be the first person to find them that day.
Right.
You know, before they go back into the woods forevermore. So we were up at woke up at 5. We were at the door by like 5:30. Did not. We saw something. We just saw a quick blur of something that might have been one, but we didn't manage to see them. So we'll have to go back. But then we went walking for these owls. Then we were out already, so we walked somewhere else to see more birds and 10,000 steps.
Bird watching. Well, I always do better to get my steps down when I have a mission, right? Like I'm going to go find a squirrel or whatever. I'm going to do this, and so yeah, there you go. I end up walking through the park, and the crows start following me because they don't have a big giant bag of peanuts, and you just keep throwing them, and then there's like you have literally a murder of crows following you. This is this big black cloud of crows is following me through the park, and it's kind of eerie but funny at the same time. So there you go.
No, it's a good move. Get something friendly. We were walking down the street the other day, and we saw these crows sort of all gathered on signposts and stuff. We're like, what the hell? And this guy's like, it's me. I feed them peanuts. We're like, oh, okay.
And there's another one of me. There you go.
Yeah. So we should welcome everyone to the show. This is Earl and the Idiot. This is the show where we have a smart guy named Earl, and I here to ask him the dumb questions to get the smart answers. That's why I'm here to be the idiot.
We've outsourced our show writing.
Yes.
So
yeah, you maybe don't even need me anymore. I'm going to be the first person replaced by AI. Because you'll just say, hey, AI, what is a dumb question I could be asking right now? And it'll be right there.
But the AI doesn't have like witty banter that goes back and forth and owls and stuff.
You know? The AI definitely was not out this morning looking for owls. I promise you that.
Absolutely not. So there you go. We won't have your
stories. Okay, yeah. What's that?
We won't have your stories, right? So there you go.
Yes. And AI definitely didn't think of making a slinky fidget toy.
Definitely not.
Thing, right? Although it probably will eventually. Now it's heard us. It's going to be part of its database.
That's it.
Yes, so we were coming up with a question to ask the AI to give us a show outline. And I think this was my idea, wasn't it? I could take credit for this one. There you go. See, I do have a use. What are some best practices to make a business last for a lifetime or a generation? Now, I said last a long time or last for the long haul. You said lifetime or a generation. Now, why did you want to add that in?
Well, a long time. What's the definition of a long time? Yeah.
Right.
Some people tell me that the relationship for a long time is 6 months. That's not very long, right? So business for a long time. How long is a long time? So if you want to make it last a lifetime or a generation, the answers change, right? It's interesting when you add, I want a generational business that's going to last through the ages. The answers are going to be different, right? And I've always been a proponent of playing for the long game, right? Love playing the long game is kind of what I do, and it's always served me over time, right? Like it might not serve you right in that minute, but I'm like, oh, if I just did the short game, I'd make a bunch of money right the hell now. But the long game has always paid out more over time. So there you go.
That's kind of, I think, what we found when we were looking at the bad marketing practices. A lot of them were
short-sighted.
Not going for short-sighted. Yeah, don't go for the immediate thing that's going to cost you in the long term.
Well, you don't want to just churn and burn the clients, right? So you don't want to churn and burn your business either. So there you go.
It's funny when you say what would define a long time. I don't know if you ever heard of the book. It's got 2 titles: Big League Sales Closing Techniques or Surefire Sales Closing Techniques.
Don't know that.
It's a famous book on salesmanship. I think one of the earlier ones from like the 50s or something. And there's a line in there where the guy says, he joined this company, and it was a relatively young company. It had only been around for 20 years.
Okay. Right. Relatively young.
Right. But now it's like a 20-year-old company is like grandfather these days.
It depends on the company, right? There's still guys who hang their shingle out saying, we've been around 174 years. And you're like, damn. So relatively young company.
I don't know. Just to my years, a young company being 20 years old, at least it's middle age these days, not young.
Yeah, absolutely.
A young company to me is like within its first couple of years.
Yep, I agree. Well, what's the statistic? I covered it last time, like something like X number of percentage of businesses fail within the first year, another bunch fail within the first 2 years, another bunch fail within the first 5, and it's like there's not much survival rate at that. So
yeah. When I was running the coffee shop, my brother actually was working for a coffee supply company and was consulting some coffee shops that were selling his product. And he says that they tend to fail at 5 years. Because at 5 years, you're still paying off the loan you got to start the business with. and your furniture goes out of date, and your equipment starts to break down at 5 years. So you're having to buy new stuff while still paying off the old stuff.
Right, and that's when it dies.
That's what it does. We bypassed that at my old coffee shop by intentionally making everything out of date. It was like sort of 80s thrown together thrift shop stuff. So we went with the out of date style.
Vintage.
Yeah. And then COVID shut us down. Anyway, moving on. What does ChatGPT have for us today? So here are some best practices that can help build a business. That can help a business last for a lifetime or even a generation. One, this is the first one. Build a strong company culture. A strong company culture can keep your employees motivated and loyal, which in turn can lead to increased productivity and profitability. Cultivate a culture of trust, transparency, and inclusivity. Earl, your thoughts?
So had you asked me this 20 years ago when I was yet a young company, I would have told you it's full of crap. I'm like, who cares? Company culture. Just make it profitable, make the systems work. Who cares? Make it go. But the older I get, the more I realize that you have to deal with the people within the company, right? Like you have to deal with the people.
What?
Otherwise there is no company, right? There's a lot of people who are like, super capitalists and like, everyone can be replaced. And then while I agree with that on a systematic level, there are nuances and trainings that take time for it to set in, right? And the other thing is the cohesiveness of the team. If the team, I'll give you a real life example. Here's a real life example from me. Back in grade 8, we had a team of superstars, of basketball players. Every single one of these people could take any other team one-on-one, no problem. One-on-one, no problem. We had crazy people. We had like this giant dude who could dunk at grade 8. I'm like, man, you're taller than the teachers all put together. And so I think he had to do a little bit of a hop and a skip and he could dunk. I had to bust my ass. I'm 5'10", so not that tall. So the 6-footers, I'm like, oh yeah, you guys have such an easy time dunking. But that corporate culture, right, where the team had to learn how to pass, right, and because it was a team full of superstars, nobody freaking passed, right, and so we dominate for the first quarter. And then everybody would be tired, right? Because we're all bagged at this time. We're all sandbagged. It's like, okay, that's it. Everyone's dying at this point because everyone's doing it all by themselves. You got to pass. You got to pass the ball. You got to play as a team, right? And so teams with lesser quality people, lesser skilled, right, would completely dominate us in the third and fourth quarters because we're gassed, we're out of juice, and we don't know how to pass, right? So that whole company culture, right, it's important for the whole premise of the best practice for a lifetime or a generation. If you don't pay attention to that company culture and you hire a bunch of people who don't fit that culture, they'll tear the company apart, right? So from a longevity standpoint, absolutely. Now that I'm a little older, a little wiser, I understand it now. In my 20s, I'm like, this is stupid. Who cares? Just make money, right? So like the young company of 20 has to have a company corporate culture. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart and rip apart at the seams. Because as you start to grow, right? What was it being said? Like every company at the $10-20 million mark is no longer a service company. It's no longer a product company. It's an HR company. And the validity of what you do as a business is dictated, it's purely upon your hires at that point, because you're magnifying the structure, and if you magnify it by a bad number, then it's bad real quick, right? So you set stuff on fire faster. So the corporate culture is really important, from a longevity point of view, right? And so if you want to build something that'll last a while, absolutely. Put some effort into the culture. I was coaching an accountant, and for the longest time he didn't understand corporate culture and doing all these things. And every time something blew up, he'd wonder why things were blowing up and why people weren't getting along or people weren't communicating properly. Boiled down to culture, right? Get the culture right, you get the right people. You get the right people on the bus, you win, right? Right people on your team, you win.
There's this notion out there that the capitalist ideal is like everyone's replaceable, everyone's just a cog. You fire employees at the drop of a whim of a hat or whatever it is. Right. And but there's maybe a difference between like a large corporation and a small business, but every small business owner I've ever talked to, their number one complaint is they can't get good people.
Yeah.
And the successful ones all have that one, office manager, that one administrative assistant or whatever. And they're like, if she runs the show around here, if it wasn't for her, the whole place would fall apart.
Right.
Kind of thing. And, so it's like, they appreciate those people, and it's worth it to them to pay them well to keep them around and treat them well too.
Well, they're the ones who get everybody together for a barbecue. They're the ones who get everybody together for karaoke days. They're the ones who get everybody over for whatever that corporate culture, that team building environment is, right? If 5 o'clock rings and everyone's out the door, and no one talks to each other, no one hangs out, and no one gets to know each other really, truly, the level of camaraderie, the level of cooperation is lessened, right?
Yeah.
And I find that when the people actually like each other in the company, and the culture is great, and it attracts the right type of people and detracts and actually pushes away the wrong kind of people, that ends up being better for longevity.
Yeah, I've seen some. It's got to be real too. You can't just sort of do lip service, because I see a lot of really angry posts online where someone's like, I've been working here 20 years and this was the thanks I get. And it was like a bag full of candy or something, or like a slice of pizza and a Coke. It's like, hey, thanks for 20 years of service.
Yep, absolutely. And it doesn't even have to be that more expensive. I mean, it's a little more heartfelt, a little more specific, a little more personalized, customized to that person. And it doesn't even have to be that expensive, and it goes so much further and so much a long way, right? So there you go. So
they used to give you a gold watch. Do they still do that?
The 40-40-40 plan, 40 hours a week, 40 years, $40 gold watch.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Now, this is an interesting one. For making a business last a lifetime or a generation, foster innovation. To stay competitive in the long run, it's important to continually innovate and improve your products, services, and processes. Encourage creativity and experimentation, and be open to new ideas from your employees, customers, and industry peers. I'm curious to hear what you have to say on this, because I'm not totally sure I'm on board. Like, a lot of times you want to get things that work and actually stop people from trying to innovate new processes to replace ones that are actually effective. What do you think of that?
It depends on the nature of the business, right? That new Coke didn't do so well, right? So the new Coke taste, we don't want the new Coke, we want the old Coke taste.
Yeah.
So I was very much of the old school, old Coke taste. I was on team old Coke. But in terms of fostering innovation, there are certain things you should be innovating, and certain things you should just leave the hell alone, right? So the secret recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Big Mac sauce, whatever these secret things are, I mean, that's what made it, that's what gave it its soul to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So you don't monkey with these things. Don't mess with stuff.
Have you ever read any of the history of Colonel Sanders, like his life?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like he was like super old when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I'm like, man, this thing.
Yeah. Like he's been in gunfights over his businesses, and like, yeah, it was really interesting. And then they like basically stole his company out from under him, but kept him on as a spokesman, and he stuck around and did his job. It was like, sometimes I would actually complain about the quality of KFC's. KFC tried to sue him because he complained about the quality of KFC's food.
Right. Well, it used to be fantastic. Then it went back down. Then went back up. Then went back down. And so that fostering of innovation, it is important. And notice how when the AI said, there's products, there's services, and there's processes, but you don't have to do all three, right? If you have a better way to build a mousetrap, you have a better way to process the order, it's faster, right? Or there's a more interesting way to do certain things. Like if you look at Zappos, the shoe company, right? They had free returns online. Like that's unheard of, right? But if you look at most people's complaint is like, I don't want to buy shoes sight unseen, never try them on, and go, oh, now I can't return them, right?
Yeah.
So looking at those processes and then questioning the status quo, yeah, change that stuff. But in terms of fostering innovation, it depends. It depends on, is that the soul of the company or not, right? If you're changing a flavor of something that's true, near and dear to people's hearts, then don't mess with that. Like maybe why don't you make a secondary line or something else? Don't mess with the original line. If that's your best selling, don't mess with your best selling thing. Make another one, right? Call it for all I care, instead of new Coke, right? Or something else, or Coke less sweet or something. I'm really bad at naming things right now, but
Yeah, I can do it for you. Don't worry.
Hey, name this new Coca-Cola thing. So, but fostering innovation, yes and no. I'm with you. Certain things need to be changed. Certain things, leave it the hell alone, right?
I guess these days with the since the advent of the internet and smartphones, like there's lots of the highway is strewn with a lot of companies that couldn't make any adaptation, like taxi companies. We were just talking about taxi companies last time, weren't we? Right? They couldn't see the benefits of YouTube app.
All of them. Hey guys, if you band together and make an app right now, you can probably fight off these guys forever, right? Because then people want to use the local one. They want to, the money stays locally. The money, doesn't go off to some corporate overhead in some other country or some other place. It stays here.
Yeah.
Right. We gave them every reason under the sun, but they just wouldn't hold hands. Right. It's like, nope, don't care. Nope, hate that guy. So
yeah. But I guess there's not a lot of companies that like you say, there's things to innovate and things to not innovate. There's probably not a lot of companies that could stay exactly the same and make no changes without eventually crashing down.
Depends on the nature of the company, right? There's some dude in Japan who's been making chopsticks for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? From generation to generation. Those guys are the dudes to go buy a chopstick from. Apparently they are the go-to people to buy chopsticks, and everyone knows this. It's a generational company. The kids always inherit it and move it forward. There's a guy who makes like old school Japanese bow and arrow, like an old school longbow, right?
Yeah,
that's cool. Like some of that stuff, the innovation. Yeah, there might be some innovation to it, but there's also the counterpoint of tradition, right? If this is the way this has been done, and there's a reason for it, and you don't want to mess with certain things. So yes and no to number two. I agree with the AI, but I also don't agree with the AI. It's not always right. So
I think probably you hit the nail on the head when you said that the trick is don't let your innovation stop your successful actions. Try it as a sideline and see if it works before abandoning what you were doing before.
Yeah, and give it a new damn name. Don't call it the same old name. Everyone gets mad at that, right? I mean, take a look at, oh my gosh, here's fostering innovation done wrong, right? You're a sci-fi fan, right? You like Star Wars and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So, who's your Darth Vader? Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, I was looking around for something I could show how much I like Star Wars.
There you go.
Let me place it. There you go. Put it in place in my head.
Darth wearing the hat.
He's wearing his hat. Yeah,
he's got a helmet and a hat for extra protection. Yeah. Anyway, so like look at some of the stuff that they've done to the storylines that the fans were super upset about.
Boo!
See, fostering innovation. Yeah, it's fine to make innovation, but make a new storyline. Don't screw with the old one. Right.
Yeah.
It's fine to make, and again, make new ships, make new lightsabers with the lightsaber with the funny little handle things and the crackly sound. Cool. Yeah. That was interesting. But don't screw with the heart and soul of certain things, right? Let's take the dog's lie sometimes.
They basically undid the victory of the Return of the Jedi.
Right.
It's all undone.
That made everybody angry. Like, wait, what? This basically retconned everything. That's not good. So but do you see the emotional response I got out of a fellow fan, right? When I would talk about fostering innovation, where some things do not need to be re-innovated. Just make a new story. You can use the same universe, make a new story. Don't screw with my old story, right? That's mine. Kids want one, make their own. That's cool. There you go.
Here's my other problem with the current Star Wars universe.
I've unleashed holy terror.
Wait, what kind of podcast is this? No, I figured this out. I actually came to this realization, and this is the only venue I have to vent about this. It used to be you'd see some weird alien in a bar, with a weird uniform. Like they make a guy, they construct a concept of an alien, and you'd see him in the cantina bar. You'd be like, "Oh, that's a weird guy," and you'd your imagination would start to go on. Oh, where does he come from? Oh, he looks like a worker, like a heavy worker dude. But you wonder about their culture and everything. And so there was this whole aspect of your imagination spinning off from what you saw.
Yeah.
They would just show you one guy and that's it. Now they've explored, they've put all that down on paper. They've taken that one guy, that one character, they give him a name, they give him a backstory, they tell you the name of his planet, they tell you about everything about that planet. And so all the mystery goes out of it. So there's no room for you to think of what might be out there. So that's what loses the magic of those original movies. Is it's all prescribed explained. Now.
Yeah.
Everything's explained. And it leaves no room for you to wonder about the Star Wars universe.
Right.
Anyway, that's probably not why we're here. Let's move on.
So you can see why we agree and disagree with AI on that one. There we go.
Exactly. Yeah. These are the things. These are the quotes you got to pull when you make my little post for social media. You get all the posts. You get all the comments about important business stuff. I got all the comments about Star Wars.
Agreed.
All right.
Yeah.
Number three. Number three. Focus on customer satisfaction. That seems pretty self-explanatory. Your customers are the lifeblood of your business. No kidding. Make sure you provide high quality, products or services and excellent customer service. Regularly gather feedback. Oh, that's a good one. And use it to improve your offerings. This AI is smart. I know we keep saying it's not going to replace us, but it's got me worried. It's real smart.
So focusing on customer satisfaction. Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, your customers, people say that own your own business, be your own boss. But at the end of the day, customers are the boss, right? Because you're serving them at the end of the day still, right? I'm a big proponent of the servant leader, model, where I might be the CEO of this group, the CMO of this group, whatever, but you'll still see me rolling up my sleeves, doing the work, meeting the people, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing building those connections and those bridges, right? So customer satisfaction, absolutely, right? If the customers aren't happy, they'll talk, right? And with the evolution of communication these days, that talk travels fast. So if they talk good, you get lots of clients. If they talk bad, everyone runs out the door, right? So making the customers happy, pretty self-explanatory, right? Do a good job. Are you proud of what you've delivered, right? Clearly, Colonel Sanders was upset when the quality of KFC tanked and fell off a cliff. And I do remember when it was bad for a bit, and then they made it good again. Oh, the new recipe. Oh, that's not good, right?
I believe he described the gravy as wallpaper paste.
The gravy is wallpaper.
Yeah, you know how he got out of the lawsuit?
How's that?
They were suing him for defaming the company and costing it revenue. He was able to, I think probably incorrectly, but he was successful, and God bless him, to say that he was talking about a specific KFC franchise business, not the whole company, but he was talking about the quality of one specific, because he would tour the facilities and do quality checks. So he made this comment about how the gravy sucks now, and he was able to argue in court that he was talking about that one location, not the whole business.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, the point is, listen to the Colonel. Don't change your gravy into wallpaper paste.
Right.
I like it. Regularly gather feedback and use it to improve your offerings. I think that's important too.
But there's a difference between the customer satisfaction and then the fostering innovation, right? Like there's customer satisfaction. The change for the good of the customer is excellent. The change for the sake of change might not be good, right?
Right. But now, have you ever experienced business owners who were so stubborn in their own ideas that they wouldn't notice that the customers were actually after something else? And it would have been that seems to be a thing.
Inventoritis, founderitis, right? That's what they call it, where they're so blinded by their love for the idea that they don't realize that there's gaping holes that they could use to actually legitimately make stuff better, right? So don't catch inventoritis or founderitis, and the cardinal sin of marketing is marketing for yourself. Who cares? I mean, if I take $100, I move it from this hand to this hand, what's really happened? Nothing, right? So exactly, you serve the client. Back to that servant leader model we talked about in part number 3. So there you go.
You have any good examples of a entrepreneur not wanting to change despite the fact the customers were begging him to do it?
Well, I mean, if you just look at the evolution of the transport industry, right? Take a look at the trains versus the trucks model, right? And so the trains, okay, well, we're going to get it from point A to point B, right? But how do we get it from here to there when train tracks cost too much money versus roads being built, and then the trucks can beat you because now they can get to anywhere, right? Because you build the road to anywhere. So it's much cheaper than building train tracks, right? And the train guy goes, "Who would ever need that?" Right? There's a famous quote, I think it was Bill Gates, "Who would ever need more than 64K of memory," right? Or whatever that was. There was that one, right? Or who would ever need more than this? Like, no.
Or someone said, "Who would ever want a phone without a keyboard on it?"
There you go.
BlackBerry, I think, said that.
When BlackBerry died, right? A horrible death. I do still miss the BlackBerry keyboard, but I mean, I can do so much more stuff with a big ass touchscreen on my current phone.
Oh my God. I had to use a BlackBerry. I had to go back to a BlackBerry. I was working for a company that had a high security threshold. and BlackBerries were more secure at the time. I think they've kind of figured it out now. But going back to a BlackBerry after using like an Android phone, boy, those things were all cumbersome. There was like 12 different buttons.
Yeah.
I mean, quite aside from the keyboard, like there was the you had the roller ball, you press the roller ball, and there were 2 select buttons on either side, and then there was another select button on the right hand side. It's like, guys, just 2 buttons should be good. The roller ball and 2 buttons, you'd be fine.
Well, look at technology in this day and age. Everything is simplified, right? Everything is simpler, right? So there's no instruction manual. It's just intuitive. So
Yeah.
there you go. So focus on customer satisfaction. Yeah, the keyboard was cool, but the touchscreen that can do anything is kind of cooler.
Kind of cooler. All right. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. We won't take too much time on that. Number 4, build strong relationships. Build strong relationships with your employees, customers, suppliers, and partners. Treat them with respect and honesty. Oh, no, this can't be right. And invest in long-term partnerships that can benefit both parties. Oh, that's 2 cans of worms right there. It's building strong relationships and then also partnerships with other businesses. That's 2 whole subjects, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if you're going for the domination, right, where you beat somebody else and it ends up being a win-lose situation, right? So you fight a vendor on a price. They give up. They go, okay, well, yeah, we'll give it to you. And then they keep doing this, and then the vendor doesn't make enough money, and then they die. And then you can't find another vendor that does it as good as the previous vendor did. And you wonder what made them die. Well, yeah, it's because that relationship, right? So if you're trying to win, lose, outmaneuver everybody, there was this one guy in real estate who could not stop negotiating. He was probably one of the best negotiators I've ever met in my life, right? But the problem is he'd never stop, and he
compulsive negotiator.
Well, he'd negotiate with the vendors, which is awesome because he was on our team. But then he'd negotiate with team members, and then he'd negotiate until nobody wanted to work with him anymore because everyone's like, "Well, we're giving you everything, right?" And he's such a good negotiator. We just gave it. We're like, "Oh, this is okay. This is what he wants." And the answer is what makes the business work a lifetime or a generation. Needless to say, he ran out of people that wanted to work with him. Right? Nobody wanted to deal with him anymore. So, he lost all this ground he gained by aiming for that win-lose scenario where I always need to beat you. And there's a corporate culture around this as well, right? So we talked about corporate culture in the beginning. I don't know who started teaching people this thing, but it's a real asshole move when you go to shake someone's hand like this, right? And you're forcing them to put their hand under you. I'm like, dude, no, like this.
Yeah. Like I had the one where the guy grabbed my hand and then went and turned it over once he had my hand in his and forced me down. I'm like, oh, bro. Yeah, like I never want to see that guy ever again for the rest of my life with that one.
I would always correct them by doing the Asian 2-hand bow shaky thing, right? Then
you grab it from the other side?
I grab it from the other side, right it back up to even keel, shake and bow, like the and but I would always correct them over and over again. Partners, right? Not winner loser, right? Partners. Because if both parties don't survive, then you have no one to trade with. Right?
Yeah, it's amazing how often you find in the business world that a relationship can be mutually beneficial. It's not dog eat dog out there.
It doesn't have to be, and that's the situation, right? So Coke doesn't make everything by themselves. They have ingredients that are made by other players, right? And if they weren't playing, fairly with some of these other players, eventually no one wants to play with them anymore, right? So the reason why companies can live long time is because they build these partnerships with people who they need to build a partnership with for a long time, and it's a win-win scenario for both sides, right? Sometimes one side might win a little more than the other side, but if you even it out, it's all fair, right? And that fair and equitable positioning where it's a win-win scenario, that's what gets you living longer, right? If one person is winning all the time, the other person's always losing, eventually the loser one dies.
You ever you've probably seen the Godfather movies, right?
Yeah. Way back.
Do you ever read the book?
No, I haven't read the book.
Book's really good. There's some interesting insights in there. And he talks about the thing that gave Don Corleone his power was he would help people.
Right.
I don't know if this is how it actually works in the mobster world. It seems a bit idealistic to me, but he was always doing favors for people. The movie opens with him offering favors to people on the day of his daughter's wedding, right?
Right.
And that by doing that, and he said, one day you must do a favor for me. He basically sowed his whole world with people who felt grateful to him and were willing to do things to help him out. And that's how he developed his great power, not by fear and intimidation, although that existed as well, but by strewing his world with people that wanted to help him back because he helped them first.
Well, like we teach people in our classes, in our courses, the number one sales emotion, reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Well, you won. And it's because they beat it into your ass by kindergarten. That dude shared his peanut butter sandwich with you. You share some of your dessert with him. Someone shared their toys with you. You share your toys with them, right? And it's ingrained in us. It doesn't matter, what culture or where you're from, right? Someone does you a solid, you want to do them one back, right? And so reciprocity is the greatest sales emotion. No different from the mob, no different from a business. You help somebody out, they're hardwired, programmed to want to help you back.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right. So this next one, it feels like this maybe goes back to fostering innovation, but it's stay agile. The business landscape is constantly changing, so it's important to be adaptable and flexible. Keep an eye on industry trends and be ready to pivot your strategy as needed.
Well, think about the whole Blockbuster Netflix scenario, right?
Yeah.
Once upon a time, Blockbuster could have bought Netflix. Now who could buy who? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there like the one or two surviving Blockbuster stores in the middle of nowhere?
I think there's one. I think there's one in Alaska.
Yeah, or I can't remember,
one
closed or something. But yeah, that's so staying agile, right? And going back to the previous one where it was pay attention to what the customer asks, right? Focus on customer. If you had asked, Netflix back in the day when they were chucking DVDs in the mail back and forth, that, hey, you ever think we're ever going to get rid of this stuff and we're just going to have it on the internet? You just push a button and watch whatever the hell you want, whenever you want, and think you're crazy. Mm-hmm. So staying agile is where it's at for sure.
There is a still Blockbuster open in Bend, Oregon. It's not Alaska.
Oh, there you go. So the Alaska one closed. That's sad.
I guess, eh?
Well, there you go. But that's it. But staying agile, paying attention to what's happening in the market, right? Look at us, right? We're using artificial intelligence to come up with our show notes now at this point. And I'm getting more compliments on the damn AI shows than I am on the one where we bled for it. I'm like, this one took me a year to figure out this. It's just like, and I'm like, okay, I got one or two. Oh, it was really good. And then the AI one comes, we spend zero time. Most of this is off the cuff. I didn't even read these notes until the show happened, and we're getting more compliments. I'm like, well, there you go, staying agile, right? Cool. That's what people want to know. And like you said, maybe it's a better environment for the two of us where it's not pre-scripted, it's not pre-thought out. It's just like, okay, well, here's the thing. I was like, oh, no hot seat. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's think.
The whole point is what best opens up Earl's brain to spill his secrets.
Right. And it's just asking random questions, right? That's why I enjoy the whole ask me anything kind of format. It's like, oh yeah, ask this, go for it. Right. And that's what gets the good stuff out of me. If I'm forced to teach you from nothing, I'm just going to teach whatever random ADHD thought pops into my squirrel brain of mine, right? It's like, you probably want to learn this. Here you go. And then you might want to learn this, and you might want to learn that. And 17 things later, you have no idea what the hell I was talking about. By the time round one is over, right? So
yeah,
right? Sometimes the authenticity of shoot from the hip just works.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. You can always tell, no matter how good an actor is. It's really obvious in bad actors, less obvious in good actors. You can always tell what's the word? Extemporaneous, off the cuff speaking versus a script.
Absolutely, for sure.
You can always tell.
Right. And I work better with bullet points. So you give me the bullet points, I can talk about whatever you want, right? But if I have to read a script, it looks like I'm reading a script, right? So
yeah,
you go. I have to be word for word verbatim, it's not going to sound good. So
precisely. All right. This one again seems like a bit of overlap maybe with the strong company culture, but it says invest in your employees. Your employees are your most valuable asset. Provide them with training and development. Okay, so that's the different aspect. Training and development opportunities and create a positive work environment that supports their growth and well-being. So make sure when I hear that, I just hear hold a pizza party every third Friday. That's all.
No, it's not enough.
Is it more than that? Is it more? This is why I'm an idiot. Tell me, Earl. What do we mean?
There's a really good post the other day on social for a couple of things, and it was like, invest in your employees, educate them, make them better, make them stronger, make them faster, right? And someone asked the question, well, there's a risk. If I invest in my employees and I make them better, stronger, faster, what happens if they leave? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a better question that said, well, if you never invest in your employees and they stay down forever, what happens if they stay?
Yeah. What's the worst outcome?
Right. And so yeah, investing in the groups, right? Like, and yes, you're investing in that person, but it's not just investing in the employee themselves, it's investing in the process. It's investing in the standard operational process by which the company is driven, right? The employee goes to learn something, but then you get them the right, hey, this is how we do this better this time, right? And in doing so, the next generation of employees get to learn from that. Everybody gets better as a whole, right? And it's following that whole constant and never-ending improvement framework, right? I do believe if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not growing, you're dying. There's no staying still. You're dying because everybody else is getting ahead of you, right? So there you go.
And something interesting with this, something I see all the time, it's so prevalent in the culture, is this idea that a business consists of management versus the employees.
No, yeah.
Right. And rather than we're all on this team together to try to make the business a success and therefore have financial success for ourselves, that we're all a team trying to do one task. It's this idea that the employees are like, oh, I can't believe management's screwing us over. Management goes, I can't believe these employees are so lazy. And it's just this
But for risk of being risque and the thought process here, look at the master-slave relationship, right? How well does that do? How come the slave shoots the master in the face? Why? Because they don't like each other, right? Whereas if you build that culture, you build that connection, you foster those relationships, you build this investing in your employees, they'll fight for you, right? So, a customer says something bad about the company, the employees will stand up for the company because they feel like they're part of the company if you build it that way.
Yeah. Nice. All right. I think we're right on track here. So this is again a whole big subject in itself. Maintain financial stability. A healthy financial foundation is essential for long-term success. Keep a close eye on your finances and be proactive about managing cash flow, reducing expenses, and investing wisely. Boy, there's a lot to talk about in that step, isn't there?
Well, long story short, the financial stability of the cash flow is the blood flow of the business. Cash flow stops, everything stops working, right? If your blood stopped right now, you keel over dead. Same thing with the business. If the financial stability goes sideways, then there you go. But we cover a lot of this stuff in like the Tuesday events. We covered a lot of this stuff in the previous stuff when we were covering the book, and we went through all the different ways to achieve financial stability. For example, upsell, downsell, cross-sell. That was a whole section on that piece. And then there was another whole financial stability on joint ventures, right? There's a whole financial stability on, hey, pay attention to what you're doing for your expenses. Are you part of a trade and barter network? Like there's a million things that you can do. So that unto itself is like probably a couple different shows. But maintaining financial stability, there's more than one way to skin the cat, right? There's more than one way to pay attention to the structure. There's more than one way to solve for X, right? It's not just one singular source. There's a bunch. That's what we got to pay attention to, right? Are you looking at all the different opportunities? Are you weighing them appropriately? And then are you going after the 80-20 rule, where it's 20% that generates 80% of your actual earnings? Pay attention to that.
And there's also the managing of part of financial success is the money that comes in, but another part is managing what you do with it once it comes in.
Well, right. I was just on the call just a couple hours ago, and I've been using this quote a lot, right? Profit feeds revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. Right? So revenue feeds the ego. That's it. Yeah, we need 10 billion this year. Like, how much did you keep? Well, we scaled it, so we only made this much. I'm like, well, why would you work extra, give yourself exposure to more liability, if things go sideways on 10 million and you don't make enough to keep to make it worth it, then if these go sideways, then you're going to be left holding the bag, right? So there you go.
Mm-hmm. So you've often talked about with accounting that where people will do accounting once a year, they should actually do it once a month, kind of thing.
Well, it's really simple. Do you only check your speedometer when you get in the car and then when you park? No, that's not really that's not really useful. You need to figure out what direction you're heading. You need to figure out how fast you're heading, and you need to check at important parts in time, like when I have to turn left. Right? It's like, hey, this is important. I should probably slow down for the turn instead of careening through it at full speed.
Yeah.
So
slow down in the school zone.
Exactly. But there's times to slow down, there's times to speed up, there's times to do it and to do it right. And so, when is the right time to do accounting? The correct answer is when is not the right time to do accounting. It's all the time, right? Like, now you shouldn't just sit there and count the beans. You have to do stuff with the data. But if you're not using the data on a regular basis, you wake up in the morning, you do a bunch of push-ups, you go for a walk, find your owls, do your thing, get some exercise. But in between that and the workout you do before sleep, all you do is eat chocolate cake all day. Whoa, how come I gain all this weight? Because you eat chocolate cake all day.
Your personal trainer's going, this guy's busting his ass in the gym.
Right.
What the heck?
But if all you eat is Kentucky Fried Chicken and gravy paste and and whatever, and that terrible new Coke all day long, then you're not going to be healthy at the end, right? It's the sum of all the parts, not just some of the parts, right? And it's like people post their best foot forward every single time on social media. No one posts, I'm having a shit day and ugly cry on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, look how great I am. Look where I am. Look at what I'm eating. And so everyone's posting the best, the best, of the best. I have to pay attention to the entirety of the thing, right?
Exactly. Okay. Here's the last one. This is last one. Plan for succession. This is interesting. Eventually, you will need to pass the reins to the next generation of leaders. Ooh. Plan for succession early on and cultivate a strong leadership pipeline that can ensure the continuity and longevity of your business. Now, I remember you had an interesting question that you brought up at one of your lectures, or what do you want to call them, workshops, where it was two questions, like, what if I sell the business today, or what if I want to keep the business forever?
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah. So it is both, right? So run your business as if you wanted to sell it, if you wanted to sell it tomorrow. Because if you run your business as if you want to sell it tomorrow, you're paying attention to valuation. You're paying attention to what makes this thing tick, what makes it go. What are people looking at from an outside perspective that want to buy this thing? And that's what you're paying attention to when you want to sell. And when you do the juxtaposition, the other side, and you're like, what do I do if I want to keep this damn thing forever, right? And the Venn diagram of where those two join together is the sweet stuff, right? If I wanted to have better valuations for my business, I probably better have really, really good standard operational procedures so that whoever takes over can keep going, right? But if I wanted to keep this damn thing forever, I better have good standard operational procedures so I don't have to keep training the new guy over and over and over again when we ever have a new guy, right? So where those two join and hold hands, those are the good stuff, right? So
I think that goes back as well to the fostering the culture of the business. Like, if you put in a good ethos, a good way the business is run, then when you turn it over, that can carry on when you're not around.
Well, it's also plans for succession, having the ethos, having the culture, right? So one of my business partners now, right, used to invite people to a meeting and said, come to a meeting with me and my boss. And I said, no, I'm not your boss. Like, you came to learn, you're my business partner, right? I'm going to treat you as a business partner from day one. They're like, no, but I don't know anything. Yeah, but I need to teach you how to be a business partner, not an underling, right? And so instead of introducing me as his boss, he started introducing me as his business partner. The shift that happened after that is magical, right? All of a sudden he can do the bigger deals by himself. All of a sudden he can engage with like multi-million-dollar clients without breaking a sweat. right? And it's the language you use to refer to yourself, right? What language do you use to talk to yourself? What language do you use to describe yourself, right? What words do you use when no one else is there, right? It better be the same, right? Because if it changes and you self-deride yourself and you don't give yourself the chance or anything like that, it comes out over time, right? So there you have it.
So yeah, because you asked the question of the Chat GPT, what if you want this to last for generations? Like you want to leave it to your kids, or just want your legacy to be this business carrying on.
Right.
You got to make sure that the way you do things is you do things in a good way, but make sure that you imbue that into the company too, right?
And you got to imbue the employees with that. You got to, if you're going to pass it down to family, you have to imbue them with that too, right? Because it only takes one generation to screw it all up, right?
Oh yeah.
So there you go, right? There's that saying that the rich guy starts with Mercedes, then the kids have a BMW, then the next generation has a Honda, and then the next generation is riding a camel, right? So
what's wrong with a Honda? Honda's a perfectly good automobile.
But if you were at a certain level and then you step down, I mean, I have a Honda, it's great, but I also have a Lexus, right? So the Lexus ride is much smoother than the Honda ride, right? Yeah. So just that's how they're built, right? But like if you want to be able to keep that generational wealth, you have to keep that in mind, right? But then it goes back to the whole tough times make strong people make good times make weak people. Weak people but make bad times make strong people, right? So if you can figure out how to shortcut that process and not go through the weak stages, your family generational wealth lasts longer, right? So
exactly. There we go. We made it through the whole thing in one shot.
There you go.
Shall we have ourselves a little hack and then wrap it up?
Here we go.
Hack of the week.
Hack of the week.
Shing.
Okay, so here's the hack of the week. And so we asked the question, what are some best practices to make a business last for a lifetime or generation? And the reason why I added the word generation in there is because that's what the hack of the week is, right? Build it for generational wealth. And the generational wealth hack is never sell. Never sell the business, at least not all 100% of it, right? Generational wealth, means never selling, the neat thing to do is to like bring in but you from 10 years ago, right? And then, train them, right? Take them under your wing, mentor them, teach them the ways, right? Give them a small equity take and, build their bonuses around growth. And, should it be a fit, let's say your kids don't want to take over, they may want to buy chunks of the business, generational wise, keep some of it within the family, but, sell the bigger chunks to these guys who want to take it to that next level, right? And if they're hungry and they really want to go, right, encourage them, build them up, grow them, right? Take them under your wing, mentor them, teach them. And something that's irked me for absolutely years, irked me to my very core, is the teacher not giving the students their all, right? Because the teachers that are fearful of their students overcoming them are terrible teachers, because they'll always save those techniques, they'll always save those bits and pieces for themselves. They'll never give it to the student. And the problem is that if that's the culture, that's the culture of the way it's being taught, every subsequent generation gets dumber and dumber and dumber.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh no, we're going to hold that one for me. Not going to teach anybody that one, right? Whereas if you change it and it's constant, never-ending improvement, and the teacher's function is to make students that are better than them, right? That's a bit of a shift. If you can do that, then whatever you're teaching, whatever you're building becomes stronger over time, right? Whereas getting weaker over time. So
I can't imagine being a teacher and not being happy if my student surpasses me. Well, I guess ego is a tough thing to overcome sometimes.
It was a rough thing. There's a lot of teachers who get really angry when their student surpasses them and beats them. They go, "This is the respect you're going to show me." No, like the respect of a student beating the teacher and surpassing them is the ultimate form of respect as a student, right? So, if a student can beat me after I've taught them, I've done my job well. as a teacher, right? So, there you go. So never sell, right? Hold on to the damn thing, build it as if you're going to hold on to it forever. But then, juxtapose that with the build it as if you had to sell this damn thing tomorrow. And where you find those two things touch, those are that's the 20 from the 80-20 rule, right? What's the 20% that you do that produces 80% of the outcome? Well, that's it right there. And then just wash, rinse, repeat that. Keep at it, keep the focus on those pieces, and there you go, right? And whether your kids end up running the company later or not, et cetera, build that culture of growth and support and education, and because if you don't, what happens if they leave? But what happens if they stay? So
makes sense to me, but then I'm just some idiot.
Well, you changed it to some idiot from.
So yeah, you missed that. Cool. I think we made it. I think that's a wrap on today's episode.
Absolutely.
Anything exciting to add, or should we just play the outro music?
That's it. That's all I got.
Let's hit it.
Outro.
Actually, I got something to add. Hang on.
Oh, sure.
I did
sure.
it. I did it. I pulled it apart.
You did it. Well, you peeled the whole thing.
Yeah, it's still quite fun to play with, even just like
Absolutely.
this. So, but if I could stick it back together then and pull it apart, that would be real. That'd be nice. That'd be really
I'll buy
good.
you a hairdryer. Just sit there.
What do you say?
No, eat the damn slinky thing.
Yes, of course. That's what it is. All right, let's hit the outro.
There we go. Outro it is.
Thanks for listening to Earl and the Idiot. We hope you learned something you can take action on this week. For more information or to contact the show, visit earlandtheidiot.com. And until next time, remember what Shakespeare said. The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool.
Thank you, Earl. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks, GPT, for doing the heavy lifting for us.
There you go.